This week's topic came from special celebrity guest Haley Phelps. Um, Haley, do you want to explain where this came from?
Yeah, so we, with some of our clients, we work through our refreshes with the current creative that we're running on assets like Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. And the number one question we get is, when are we going to refresh this? Why are we refreshing it? And how often should we? And
Yeah.
so wanted to kind of post that question to everybody here at the 5 minute marketing hour, since it's a common occurrence.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'll
Simply
jump in.
said,
You
how
want to jump in? You
often
want to?
how I
Oh,
was
okay.
yeah, simply said, how often should you refresh your creative? And we've got three amazing perspectives here, like high level consultancy strategy, Haley, who actually manages projects and works directly with clients, and Josh, who we never let talk to clients, but is a creative guru. So yeah, sorry, Josh, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No, that's fine. Yeah, I'll just. Oh yeah, here we go. Boom. I'll just itch it to jump in on this one. The super simple answer is
never.
however often you need to. It feels bad, but so and to Haley's point, we get the clients asking, when are we going to refresh this? How often should we refresh this? A lot of it depends on, I would say, the industry you're in and the type of product and or service you're selling. If you are if you have a high visible product, a high market turnover, like say if you're selling a soda that maybe is in a red can with a white swoosh across it, you could probably stand to update your creative minimum quarterly. I bet you they're probably doing some stuff monthly, from as far as like paid types of things goes. Social, its own beast. But I think if you're in more of a B2B space, where you're not dealing with it, you've got longer sales cycles, longer buying cycles, you're probably more likely to be able to get a twice a year refresh. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean a full redesign every 6 months. It could just be a campaign evolution that you're looking at every so often. But to me, from my seat on the bus, since Riley's not here, I had to say that.
Yeah.
We'll throw in.
Check that off the
I think
bingo card.
it really comes down to really the type of product you're selling and how visible it is and how often someone may be seeing those types of ads.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with you on that standpoint, but I would disagree on the aspect of whenever you need to. I would absolutely take into account multiple things in that. Number one being the platform that you're actually running it on. So if it is something like Facebook or LinkedIn, you're going to want to go based on the performance of the asset itself. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But if you're having some ad fatigue, then absolutely take a deeper look into the performance and maybe do some A/B testing aside from it. Don't just refresh for the sake of refreshing.
Yeah.
Haley,
When I said whenever you need, I meant based on measurable metrics and tracking that you're doing on your career.
And I'd add to that, Josh, and say, we have some of the best outcomes with client partnerships where it is on a structured schedule.
Mm-hmm.
But to your point, when do you need to? That's okay. We don't do it before that date unless something's like there's a catastrophe. We don't do it before that date, but we're allowed to say no. So if you're looking quarterly and you come to the quarterly check-in, you have 10 campaigns, 7 of them might stay the same because you just don't reinvent it if it ain't broken. But 3 of them might be updated.
Yep.
I was going to ask Haley, like I had data written down, so this is one of the things that we shared.
Mm-hmm.
Do you notice? Is there ever data that's surprising to you and our clients? Like when we have the media team or Josh come to us, Is there ever stuff that it's like, oh, I would have looked at this metric, but yours makes way more sense?
Yeah. No, I wouldn't even say of like looking between two metrics, but you can do so many different things when it comes to the assets and what you're refreshing. So if you're going to refresh just the copy, try a different way to phrase the same thing. And then you can compare the two to see if they work. But then you can also, another big one that we test a lot is actually male versus female. What does it actually render with? So it depends on what you're trying to sell and what you're marketing towards. But that's another pretty cool one. So somebody can come to me and say, oh, well, all of our demographic is female. We got to have a female character, like imagery on there. No, not necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you have a marketing department that's well funded enough, that's the other thing I think is a constraint is budget. If you have a marketing
absolutely.
department that's well funded enough, and you have a product or set of products or solutions that has a large enough total addressable market, you can actually create tests for your segments. So like, it could be young professionals, could be, stay-at-home moms, and could be, I don't know, small new families or something like that. And you could develop creative tests for each one of those and start to understand what works well. That was one of the things I had written down was test.
You said the T word before I could jump in. Yes, testing. Well, because we've talked about this in other ones. Like testing is a big one that can also help drive a refresh. Testing in one market, you might be able to do a small thing and be like, oh, this is going gangbusters over here. Let's maybe start to evolve when it comes time to do a, relook at those kinds of things for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely. And then the other thing that I had written down was that you should treat brand marketing creative separately from demand marketing creative. So brand marketing creative is going to be always on. It's going to address 95 to 100% of your total addressable market. That is going to develop fatigue because this is going to be something that's meant to be in front of people often while they're not in market for your product. Demand marketing is only going to show up to around 5 to 10% of your market when they're in market for what you sell. And so that doesn't need to be updated nearly as frequently. I think that one of the traps that we marketers fall into is like, this demand marketing isn't producing as much as we want. Let's invest more into it. Let's redo the creative. When we really look at the overlap of the new people versus returning people seeing demand marketing, it's almost all new. And so we don't need to update it as often as the brand marketing. So that was something I was thinking about.
Well, yeah.
I think that also kind of pairs into what Josh said. I think we're saying the same thing, Josh.
I think it comes down to it even layers into what you said a minute ago, Tom, of, you might have 10 campaigns running, 7 of them stay the same. Exactly. If 3 of them are brand, I can guarantee you will want to update those. Now, if you've got something that says, oh, this is how we sell our stuff, that's a more narrow market, that one can run a little longer. There we go. Okay.
Keep going, Haley. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, I think that just pairs back to what Josh said, though, of like, you don't necessarily need to refresh, but you can evolve. You don't want to take away from your overall message to the point that it doesn't relate back to anything else that somebody else, what they've seen in the past.
Yeah.
You want it to flow.
Yeah. You still got to keep the brand unified. I love that. And I think that goes back to testing and iteration and putting it like, your test doesn't scrap everything you did before. It's an iteration on something else, you did. And you're experimenting. You're saying, could we change the call to action? Could we change the visual? Could we change the subject? Could we change the person you featured in it?
And this is where some of the newer features, I say newer, it's been around in various iterations for years, but dynamic creative, where you can, where updating ads is maybe as simple as updating a spreadsheet. Like, oh, let's change some headlines here, and now it's rendering a new ad. That also allows for speedier kinds of things like that. But again, a lot of the stuff, if you're in a kind of a niche market, you're probably going to have a pretty custom pieces versus, if you're a bigger business with a lot of products, a lot of services, that might make more sense to have that type of creative running.
Yeah, I hear people coming from the CPG packaging traditional marketing sides, and they come into digital and they're like, oh my gosh, let's just test the heck out of everything, because for them it's so hard to do a test. Like, if you're testing packaging, you have to do a huge run, you have to put it out in stores, you have to see who buys what, you have to go and survey people and understand why they did something. And advertising, you throw it into the machine and it does it for you with, if somebody knows, somebody knows what they're doing with relative ease. So, but I think it's easy for us to forget. It's like, testing, that's another set of creative. We got to get the budget for that. Everything is hard. It's just kind of an interesting perspective for people who come from the traditional side. They're like, why would you not do that? You've got to do that. You've got to test more. So anyway.
Test it all. So what's the recap, Tom? We've got, what did we say? So as often as it needs, but that comes down to, are you seeing fatigue? Is there, is it a necessary piece? What else do we
Yep.
have out there? I'm blanking.
Yeah, and it's got to be on a
5
planned
minutes.
schedule.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's got to be on a planned schedule. You got to look at the right metrics, and then brand ads should be treated differently than demand ads. They probably don't need to be demand ads. Probably don't need to be updated quite as often. So,
Yep.
And special thanks to celebrity guest Haley Phelps.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Nice. Great topic.